All right, everybody, welcome into Sports and Money. I am Benjamin Parker. We appreciate you so much coming in today. We're doing something very different. We've never done this on any of my channels before. We have Jake Franklin from way down in Texas with us today. Jake Franklin is an X's and O's guru. I'm going to set you up real big, Jake, okay? Jake does a ton of X's and O's study, and we're going to look through about 3 or 4 plays today. I think most of them, if not all of them, are from Coastal Carolina. And we're just going to break down some film and talk about things that the quarterback might be looking at, things that might blow up a play, things that might make the play a success, those kinds of things. And Jake's going to walk through us today. But Jake, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. No, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you asking. I'm excited to dig in a little bit and hopefully live up to the title of X and O Guru.
Yeah, we're coming big, coming strong, coming hot. And I apologize if that's too much, but I may or may not refer to anything on this little board just for questions. But for the most part, the audience, we're going to be looking at your plays and breaking it down on there. And this is just so the audience knows, this is the first time you and I have done this. So if the video tonight's a little bit sloppy, we apologize. The material will be great, even if we're not as organized as we might like to be tech-wise from start to finish. But I'm looking forward to it, Jake. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, man.
Yeah, for sure. Again, thanks for having me.
All right, go ahead and start walking us through the team we're studying and the play and some of the concepts we're looking at tonight. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be walking through Coastal Carolina. Their offense, they've been super creative. They're no secret anymore. Everybody's, everybody knows about Coastal Carolina, especially from the past couple of years. They've been ranked, and they run a cool new modern option, I guess you will, if you will. It's one thing that's definitely leaking into football a little bit more as you see more speed option and midline option, all kinds of different options that you haven't seen teams, spread teams run before until the past couple of years. So it's definitely a new trend that's coming in, and I guess you could say it's like the old becoming new again. So that's what we'll be going over tonight, is just some of the creative plays that Coastal Carolina has. There's been a ton of videos done on them. So if you want to dig in more on Coastal Carolina, there's about 1,000 play videos on YouTube. And then there's a book written about them too by Alex Kirby, which is very phenomenal as well. There's a plug right there for a Coastal Carolina book. But lots of creative stuff from Coastal.
Hey, real quick, before you dive into that first play, you mentioned, for those of us, because not all of us are terminology savvy, and that seems to be one of the big learning deficits. Yeah. Midline option versus what was the other kind of option you mentioned just a second ago?
Speed option.
Okay. Just real quick, for those of us who don't know the terminology, maybe we've seen it, didn't know what we were looking at. Yeah. What's the difference, real quick, between midline and speed?
So midline option, you're reading an interior defender. So usually if you're reading, if you have a midline read, you're reading the first defender that's in the A gap or outside of the A gap. And then speed option, you're usually reading the defender who's on the very end of the line of scrimmage. So that could be a walked up linebacker or a defensive end. They're similar plays, but just different reads. One, again, midline's more of an interior read, while speed option, you're reading a guy on the edge.
That's perfect. That's why we have you on here, to explain some of this stuff to people who, maybe we don't look at that quite as often. Okay, go ahead and take over the first play, man.
Okay, great. All righty. Are you able to see my screen?
I've got it, man. It looks crystal clear. Thank you.
You bet. All right, so I did my best to draw up what is happening in this play. I know it just looks like a lot of yellow all over, but let's walk through it, and I'll make it as simple as I can, because, again, I needed it in simple terms because that's how my brain works, and so I'll explain it that way too. So here's midline option, and so the quarterback is going to read the first interior defender to the left. So they're running the play to the left. So the first defender that's in the A gap, which is right in between the center and left guard, first defender that's from the A gap to outside is going to be this defensive end who looks like he's in either a 4-eye or a 3 from this standpoint. And then after that, the quarterback will read the next defender outside of him, which is going to be this walked up linebacker right here. So there's midline, which is where there's only 2 options. The quarterback can keep it himself, or he can hand off to the tailback. But this is midline triple. So this adds a third threat to the play. So basically what the offensive line is doing here is they're making sure all the other defenders are accounted for besides the two that are being read. So you'll see the left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle take care of all the defenders in the box. And then the left tackle is going to arc out wide. Again, he's not blocking one of these two guys right here. He's going to arc out wide and block the defenders who widen with this play, just in case this ball does end up hitting on the perimeter. So we'll go ahead and run through it a couple times, and I'll run it slow just so you can see there's a lot going on at once. But essentially, just know there's three options on this play. The quarterback can hand it off to the tailback, who is attacking straight down the line, down the midline, and he'll be attacking right at the center's butt. And if that defensive end, the first read, crashes down on the running back, the quarterback can pull it and take it himself. But if that first read, that D end right there, stays put, runs upfield, or widens, then the quarterback will hand it off to that tailback, and he'll attack right down the middle. Again, now let's go to the second read. If the defensive end crashes and the quarterback pulls it, this offset running back right here is going to widen out with the quarterback. He'll be outside, and then they're going to read the second read right here, which is the walked up linebacker. If the linebacker plays the quarterback will quickly pitch it out to the offset running back, who's the pitch man. And if this linebacker widens with the pitch man, the quarterback's going to tuck it high and tight and take it himself and hopefully score here. So we'll play it right now. So starting out, you see that defensive end turns his shoulders and crashes down, and so does the linebacker. So the quarterback quickly pulls the ball himself, sees a linebacker crash down too, and pitches it out to that pitch man right there. So I wish I could make it go slower, but this is as slow as it goes. So right there, you see that defensive end. Right. He has his shoulders turned, which means he's playing the running back. And then you see this linebacker right here. He also squeezes down on the run, which makes the quarterback pull the ball, one, because the first read crashed down, and then he quickly pitches it because that second read, who is a walked-up linebacker, also squeezes down. And then that allows the pitch man to get the ball and attack the perimeter with a couple blockers out front. So you can see there they gain about 8 to 10 yards. And one thing that's unique about Coastal Carolina is they'll send out their left tackle, and we talked about that already. But since, again, they're not blocking these two guys right here, they'll arc that guy out to take care of a linebacker or safety. And they also have this H-back coming from the other side of the formation, bypassing these two defenders who are being read, and he works up into the linebackers and safety. He doesn't get his hat on anybody, and the guy he doesn't get a hat on, which I believe is the safety, makes a tackle. But again, it's so easy just to say, well, we should have done that when you're watching film. You're not actually in his shoes. So it's much easier to say you're rewinding. So there's Midline Triple, and we'll watch it real quick from the end zone view, which is a little bit cleaner. So again, quarterback's reading the defensive end and then the linebacker, and we'll play in slow motion. Right off the bat, defensive end squeezes down hard. Quarterback sees that, so he pulls it, and you see that linebacker, he plays inside, working towards that quarterback, which tells the quarterback to pitch it, and then bam, there you go. You get it on the perimeter, and you have that left tackle out in front, sealing off the outside from that defender, and then it's a one-on-one. Defender makes good play, good tackle. The sideline is undefeated. Sideline wins there, but good pickup of 8 yards right there. And that's Midline Triple. And again, there's a bunch of clinics that go into the deep details of it, but that is essentially what it is. Interior, you're reading an interior defender and the next guy outside of him, and it's just another form of triple option.
All right, I have 23 questions just here on this first play. Okay, so I'll try to limit them to maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
I just want to note though, the very fine detail of that defensive end, not the walk-up linebacker, but the defensive end the quarterback is reading. The very fact of him turning his shoulders, that one thing can determine the entire play, correct? Just right. That one thing alone.
That's correct. Whenever you see that defensive D end turn his shoulders, that shows that he's completely sold out to the run. He's not going to make the play on the quarterback if his shoulders are turned all the way inside to the midline. So that's a dead giveaway. A lot of coaches will coach this play up. If the DN, even if he squeezes down, still hand it off. But as soon as he turns his shoulders, that's when you know he's fully committed to stopping that running back right headed down the midline, and that's whenever you know to pull it.
Let me ask you this, because that No matter what option you're talking about, so often the action of the defensive end seems to be a hinge point in a lot of these plays. What happens? How hard is it for the quarterback to make the read if you have a defensive end who is either A, very good, or B, just very confused, who doesn't show you any commitment at all? How, because the quarterback has only a split second to make this read. What happens if you're playing against the defensive end who's not really, he's just kind of standing there on a particular play?
So when in doubt, you hand it off. The coach always, you can never be wrong handing the ball off, but you can be wrong taking it yourself. And so if the play begins and that defensive end that you're reading is kind of shuffling inside, but he's not fully committed, that's just, hey, play it safe, hand it off. Your quarter or your tailback who's headed down the midline is at least going to pick up 2 to 3 yards because he's already headed down the midline with a bunch of steam, and that defensive end isn't fully committed yet. So anytime there's any ambiguity, any cloudiness, gray area, then just hand it off. That's the safest bet. And this is even,
and that simplifies it. Yeah.
Yeah. That, like, even right here, like, it's kind of a late read. I mean, he turns his shoulders late. So, if I were in his shoes, I might have handed it off, but he did squeeze down pretty hard. But yes, usually when in doubt, hand it off. And if you see his shoulders turn, you need to pull it.
This is fascinating stuff to me. Now, I noticed, maybe not so much from this view, but from the other view, it seemed like at first glance, it seemed like the far outside run was very much open because of where the defense lined up. Everybody's pretty much at that hash mark. Well, you got the walk-up linebacker who's a little bit out there, but everybody else is over in the middle of the field, more or less.
Yes.
But athletes are so quick that you can't just say, well, there's a lot of space out there in the flat. You certainly can't just, those athletes are so quick and usually well taught. You can't just say, well, there's a lot of space out in the flat, we're just automatically going to do that. You still have to make the read, correct? That's so important.
That's right. That's right. It's tempting before the play. Wow, look at all that space, I'm just going to pull it. But they can totally blow up this play, because even if you see all that space out there, that defensive end could run upfield, and that linebacker could also run upfield. So if you pull it, I mean, they got 2 for 2 on the outside, and you're in trouble. So that's why, even as a quarterback, it might be tempting if you see something pre-snap, but you always have to confirm what you see post-snap as well.
Well, and I imagine if you're a young quarterback, it probably only takes you 1 or 2 plays to get busted before you figure out these guys are a little quicker than maybe who I played against in high school, right?
Yes, all these dudes most of them are being paid a scholarship to come out and play. So they're all athletes. All
right. Well, if you will, I want to go back to the quarterback himself.
Yeah.
As soon as he gets the ball in his hand, basically, are we talking 1/2 this decision? Is it a full second? It's quick, right? What's his time frame?
Probably a little less than a second. I mean, what he's going to be doing is he has to make his decision by the time the ball gets to his front hip. And you see, as soon as the ball is snapped, that tailback's already headed downhill. And you can see the quarterback right here. Let's see. He starts with the ball on his back hip, and he's going to ride the tailback. But as soon as the ball gets to his front hip, that's when he has to make his decision. So again, that's probably less than a second. But if that ball passes your front hip, you just got to hand it off.
Now, how many times? I know it will be different for every program, depending on the size of the playbook and what offense you're running. But in an ideal world, a realistic world, how about that? How many times would Coastal Carolina or maybe the average college have run this particular play in practice before they trot it out on the field? Are we talking 100 reps or 50 reps, or what are you on average college? What are you thinking?
I think average college, if you're going to run midline triple and any triple option for that matter, you've got to rep it hundreds and hundreds of times. I heard a quote a while back. I don't remember who said it. They said, you can't date option, you got to marry it. And so teams that just run option casually, a lot of times they don't have success. But when teams have a identity in it, like Coastal Carolina does, they do really, really good at it. And it just takes so many reps for everyone to get really good at, especially the quarterback making those reads. I mean, they're so quick, and you got to be right, because this play can easily get blown up in the backfield just because, you're leaving two guys completely unblocked. So you got to practice it over and over and over, hundreds and hundreds of times.
And that to me, that's fascinating. Hundreds of times. So I'm sure in a way, if you've got juniors and seniors, you're talking about 2 years, you may have been working on this, but in reality, I guess that starts back with practice at the beginning of way back at the beginning of spring, right? Is when this really kind of kicks in and starts.
That's right. Yeah, it's got to be one of your bread and butter plays. Probably run into some spring ball, one of the first installs in fall camp. I mean, it takes a lot of time to learn option.
It's a commitment, and I like what you said about you've got to marry it, not date it, because it is a commitment. You've got to commit to this to be good at it, right?
That's right, 100%.
All right, I have more questions, but let's go ahead and let you roll the second play. And I think some of the questions may be common to each play.
Okay, great. So here's a play action pass, and since Coastal's very heavy midline, triple, and just option team in general, they really made the most of this play, of the play action, because the defense is so locked in on stopping the option because it's so difficult to stop already that they end up biting really hard on triple option play action. So before we even focus on the post wheel concept over to the boundary, which is at the short side of the field, let's watch the play action from the quarterback and both running backs. So it looks just like midline triple right here. Quarterback clears the midline, running back runs right down the middle, and the quarterback even attacks the outside for about 2 to 3 steps before dropping back and flipping his hips. And then you see that offset running back. He acts like he's the pitch man, but he ends up actually just being the check down. So you can watch, especially, let me show you, let me circle them. These two guys right here, really all the defenders, and even this safety. If you watch all three of these guys, I mean, they completely sell out to the run. They run downhill, and then you see two of them flip their hips around hard because they realize then it's a pass, but it's too late. So they're terrified of the triple option. Who isn't? It's a great offense, especially from the pistol. So now that we've seen the play action fake, we can look at the concept itself. So right now the quarterback has a post wheel concept with the check down. And so this is usually just a true progression read. I say that, but then there's going to be 500 coaches who disagree. Again, so you just got to do it the way that works best for you. But okay. Right now you'll see from the outside receiver, he's running a post. He breaks it at 10. And then this H-back who motions across, what he does is he's also part of the play action fake. You see he kind of stutters. He takes his time getting out, making it look like he's getting ready to block, but then he attacks up the sideline right there. And then, of course, you see that offset back for a check down if the first two guys aren't open. And so you see the whole time the quarterback's going through his play action, he's looking downfield and he sees that corner sitting, and then he sees this safety right here. He's got his hips turned and he's hauling outside, probably thinking that receiver who's about to break on a post is actually going vertical. And you got to know as a quarterback, if you know your receiver is about to break right here at 10, and then this safety right here is running the opposite direction of where the receiver is about to break, you got to know that's about to be open, and that's exactly what happens here. You see the receiver break, and then that safety has to totally make a 180-degree turn, and he still does it pretty well. Like, he makes a speed turn, but he can't catch up to that post. I mean, you got one guy running full speed one direction, and then another guy running the complete opposite direction that has a change direction going back the other way against a receiver who's made to run fast. So really good read by the quarterback. He was patient with it. And I mean, right here, you see how this receiver wins. He's breaking this way. This safety's hauling butt to the sideline, and that's why it works right there. And again, he was patient with it. He let it develop. And then this corner right here, he's sitting on the wheel, so the wheel's not going to be open. And then you see, I think this is a linebacker. Yeah, this linebacker's out here in the flat, so he's got the check down. This corner sits, and the safety hauls his tail out to the sideline, which helps that post open up. So we'll watch it one time, full speed. Unfortunately, I draw too much on this. There you go. Pretty play. So that's just post wheel right there. And it's a great, it can beat a whole lot of coverages. And I like running against cover 3, but this works too. Pretty. And watch it right here. You can see right when this play starts, the quarterback will hop off the midline. And again, the midline is the line right down the middle of the center. He clears the midline so the running back can attack straight downhill. And that's what really sells this play. Just, I mean, it looks identical to their midline triple, which we just went over. And then, bam, there it is. You get everybody biting down. It makes attacking through the air a lot easier when all the linebackers are screaming downhill. So there it is. There's the post wheel.
It's a beautiful play, and a lot of what Coastal Carolina does is beautiful. And football can be very sloppy. Despite of best laid plans, right? Football can be. Carolina is one of the more efficient programs in the country on offense, right? They are very crisp, very efficient, very well practiced. They seem to know pretty much what's going on all the time, right?
Yeah, no, they're very crisp, very clean, and you can tell like their players are really comfortable with what's happening, and they look confident. They play fast.
I love the freeze frame. Just about the time that the quarterback has, he's probably already made his decision, but he hasn't thrown it yet. That freeze frame right there is beautiful because you get a good look at what's already happened. And you mentioned that the linebackers biting down on the play action, and the safety who had to turn and was anticipating something different did a decent job still, but it's just too little too late, right?
That's right. Yeah, he caught up the receiver pretty quick.
And but this particular play, because it's play action, it's really only successful because they were successful at running the football earlier in the game or earlier in the season, correct?
That's right. Yeah, they establish a great run game, and the triple option can beat you quick if you're not sound defensively. So it's definitely I totally understand the defense selling out to the play action here. I mean, you watch this guy; he's completely fooled whenever the play starts. I mean, completely caught off guard.
How hard is it for defenses? And I know for the most part you're an offensive guy, but you see it all. How hard is it for defenses at every level now of football? They could literally be looking at they might go a whole season and not see the same offense twice, right? It's like being put in a mixer or a blender. It's kind of hard to, you do the best you can to read your stuff, but it's kind of hard with today's rules and today's designs. It's kind of hard to know what's coming and to stay on balance, right?
Absolutely. No, they have a lot to digest in a really short amount of time. They're reading linebackers, read guards, they have to, look at the alignment of the running backs. They got to watch a motioning H back. They got to watch a play. They got to worry about a play action post being ran behind them. I mean, they have a million things to worry about. I never plan on being on the defensive side of the ball because you have to game plan way longer, and you probably have less sleep. I mean, these guys, especially with Coastal, you have a lot to game plan for. And all year they see air raid teams that throw the ball a lot. And Coastal does too, but, they rarely see true triple option like Coastal.
Let me ask you this, and by the way, the audience, just so the audience knows, you and I rehearsed none of these questions. So I'm giving them all to you on the fly. So if there's something that you're not quite sure of, by all means, just say, hey, I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The pre-snap read, A, is there a pre-snap read? B, if there was a defense that they don't like, what play might they opt into? Is there a pre-snap read, and what would it be if there was one?
I think, the quarterback knows this is a play action pass, and usually what you do as a quarterback, and again, everybody coaches this differently, is you'll take a look at, is it one high or two high? Is there one safety high in the middle of the field, or is the middle of the field open with two safeties? And then you check the alignment of the corners. And a lot of times, defenses disguise it, but a lot of times you can still tell what covers they may be in, which gives you at least a clue of where the ball might be going, or at least where more likely the ball is to go. So again, defenses are good at disguising it nowadays. And but yeah, the quarterback usually has a clue. And if he doesn't, he's just going to work through his progression here and go 1, 2, 3. And if he doesn't like anything, you can tuck the ball and run.
And that really is, you mentioned the defense is disguising. This is my last question before we hit the third play. that really is one of the best weapons that defenses have these days, right? Is to just disguise what they may or may not be doing, so you don't really get a chance to opt out of a play. That really is one of their best things, right? As opposed to being prepared for every single thing that an offense might do, which is basically impossible. Just kind of disguising what you're doing as a defense is one of the most useful tools these days, right?
Absolutely. No, if you have the quarterback confused, and that, I mean, that means he's going to be playing a little bit slower. He's not going to be able to get the ball out exactly when he wants to. And if you slow the quarterback down and you slow his reads down by disguising coverages, it helps helps everyone on defense. I mean, slower decision makes the quarterback guess, and a guessing quarterback probably isn't throwing as accurate as he possibly could be if he felt confident with every throw.
Those little half seconds, whether it's the linebackers biting on the run and then quickly discovering they need to back out, or whether it's the quarterback being a little confused, that little half second can make all the difference on any given play. All right, third play, roll it out for us.
All right, here's it's a fake quarterback draw with a running back pop pass. And again, I don't have this playbook. This might have been an RPO, run pass option, meaning the quarterback could have run the ball himself or thrown it to the running back who's going to attack right down the middle here. Could have definitely been an RPO, actually. So what happens here is, I'll get rid of this drawing, is the quarterback is looking. He sees, first off, the middle of the field is open. There's two high safeties. You got a safety here and a safety here, and the corners are outside too. And what's going to be happening here with the outside receivers is they're going to be running a slot fade, from the slots, which keep both of these safeties wide. And then the outside wide receivers are going to be running hitches. And so that keeps the safeties and the corners staying outside. If they're running an inside route, then they'd be brought inside. But what happens here is the quarterback takes a brief drop back, and he's looking at this middle linebacker right here. This running back is attacking right down the middle where all that grass is between the safeties. And after a brief moment, the quarterback is going to start running up the field. It's going to look like a quarterback draw. And what happens here is you see this linebacker sitting here staring at the quarterback. And as soon as he sees this quarterback, he takes a drop, right? As soon as he sees this quarterback drop his hips and take a couple steps forward like it's a quarterback draw, this linebacker plate comes up really quick. And this running back right here sneaks right past him, right in the middle of the field. And the quarterback's able to put a ball right on him for a touchdown. And so, again, this might have been, I'm just watching the offensive line here, and it doesn't strike me as a design draw, or an RPO. It looks more, since they're pass setting and they're not attacking downfield, that's why I'm thinking that it's more of a design play. But anyway, regardless, it's quarterback pop pass to the running back. If the linebacker were to run with this running back the whole way and stay with him, then the quarterback can just take it himself up the middle.
That's a fascinating thing you mentioned, that it looks like the offensive line is set for pass protection. It does not look like that they are trying to start working their way a yard or two upfield to kind of get that draw play that you mentioned, even though it might be there as an option if all the passes are covered. How much of this stuff can you run with a quarterback who's not very mobile? For instance, and I'm not going to drag you into the schemes for West Virginia, but West Virginia just picked up J.T. Daniel on the transfer portal. He's not the most mobile guy in the world, very accurate passer. But coming back to Coastal Carolina, they've got the mobile guy. How much does it limit you here on a lot of this stuff if your quarterback isn't particularly mobile?
It definitely limits you. I mean, having a fast quarterback that has a history of attacking with his feet and doing well with his feet, definitely that's going to be in the back of the linebackers and DBs' minds throughout this game is, hey, he can hurt us on his feet too. I know Coastal Carolina, they do a lot of speed option, midline triple, that kind of stuff, because they do have a fast quarterback. But, if you have a slower quarterback, you can still run option, but it's just going to look different. There are going to be more RPOs where instead of the quarterback or the running back taking it, it's going to be either the running back gets it or the slot receiver running a slant behind the linebacker gets it, and you're going to read that linebacker. So you can run a form of option with any kind of quarterback, but that kind of option might look different, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. This play is a devastating play. I'm sure it feels like a knife in the heart for defense to watch. You're trying to cover everything, right? You're trying to cover the wide receivers. You're trying to cover the tight end. You're trying to right up the middle, and for a wide open touchdown. That's got to just take the wind right out of you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's devastating. This linebacker's put in such a difficult spot. I mean, he's sitting here and he sees the quarterback, take hard steps forward, looking like it's a draw. And then he has his hand out, feeling the running back. And by the time he turns around, the running back's already full steam ahead, 5 yards past him. And you can see the middle linebacker falling off balance. And, I mean, I don't even know if you can be mad at that linebacker as a defensive coordinator. I mean, that's just a great design by the offense, and it's just a really tough spot to be in as a Mike.
Absolutely, which is the whole point, right? You're trying to isolate. Yeah. You're trying to isolate certain guys, and even if they do something basically right, you still have a backup for that. Correct? That's the whole point of this.
That's right. That's right. You have two options here. If that middle linebacker does run at that running back, well then, you can look at it here. There's holes for the quarterback to run right here, right here. And then this outside linebacker is running outside at the slot fade. I mean, so really this really could be an RPO. Like you hit the running back if the middle linebacker doesn't run with them, and the middle linebacker does run with him, the quarterback can attack on his feet with all this open grass right here. So, yeah, there's always a backup option. You want to give your players options. So if something bad happens, they have another opportunity to gain some yards.
And like we said, that's the whole point of all this. It's not just to be fancy or tricky. It's to make sure that you have, as a quarterback, you have good, sound options no matter what the defense does.
That's right. That's right. Give your players opportunity to make plays and give them chances. That's your job as a coach, is to set them up for success. So if one thing doesn't work out, make sure that your players have another opportunity to win.
One quick generic question. This would be for any play. And then we'll hit the final play. I've often thought, is it a fair comparison to think about boxers in a ring, and you're basically trying to shift and shift and shift, and you just catch the other guy off guard between the jabs and the hooks and the movement of the feet, and you're trying to catch the other guy off guard, so that no matter what he does, you're gonna get a chance to get a good punch in. That kind of feels like modern offenses. No matter what the defense does, you're just trying to shift, and get the defense off balance.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's a game of punches, and you can, if you're throwing a right jab constantly 10 times in a row, and then you can hit them with a left hook, that they're waiting for that right jab. And that's, what you can do here is you can set up defenses and get them used to, what you're running, and then hit them with something else, like a little spice here and there. So, yeah, you can definitely set them up.
All right. Well, I assume we still have time left for the last play.
Absolutely.
All right. Go ahead and take us through it.
So here we go. This is speed option. All right. Here's another drawing that's really hard to digest, but you're not reading an interior defender here. They're reading the end man on the line of scrimmage, which would be this defensive tackle right here. So this left tackle is going to arc out and take any defender that's here in the alley. And then all the other linemen are going to cut the defensive line and the linebackers off from the outside. So this is an outside hitting play. The quarterback and running back are going to attack the edge of the offensive line right here. And this defensive end runs upfield right at the quarterback. The quarterback can pitch it out to the tailback. And if this defensive end widens, comes out this way, then the quarterback can take it right up the middle right here. But basically, it's the offensive line's job to cut everybody else off from this play, really just to isolate the defensive end on the quarterback and tailback. So we'll let it run through. You can see right here, so right when the play begins, the quarterback and running back open up like it's a downhill run. It almost looks like midline. Their quarterback clears the midline, running back takes a couple steps straight downhill, and then right after that brief downhill fake, that gets all the defenders coming inside because it looks like an inside run, and then they pop right back out and attack the perimeter. You could also call this freeze option, it's the same thing as speed option, except you add a downhill run fake, which freezes the defense. So this is called freeze option. It's the same thing as speed option. You're still reading that defensive end. And you see that defensive end right here. He runs directly at that quarterback, and that tells the quarterback to pitch the ball. And that tailback gets the ball out in space with a left tackle out in front of him, and he ends up scoring right here. Great play, great design. And so you can see this left tackle too. He loses ground to really get wide. I mean, he gets out here and picks up the first threat, and he has two other receivers out here blocking for him. Pitch the ball, got left tackle out in front. Running back makes that guy miss. Left tackle gets his hat on a guy. Pretty play. And then we'll look at it right here too. So there's the read. He's in a 4 technique, head up on that left tackle. So they're reading him. And then all these other defenders, it's the offensive line's job to cut everybody off like this from this side of the play. So again, you isolate that defensive end, cut everybody else off, and then you make it. Then if the quarterback makes the right play, it all works out. Makes the right read right here. Defensive end crashes down on the quarterback, pitch that ball out, bam. Then you let your players go make plays in space. Really pretty play. That's a touchdown. So that's freeze option. It's just it's a stem of speed option. And I love it. You know, I see Clemson running it now. Oklahoma's running it now. They've been running it in the past, but it's just one thing I'm seeing in football way more, even at the high school level. A lot more teams that you've never seen it run any sort of option are now running speed option.
I'm going to show you how old I am here because on my next 2 questions. When we were growing up in the 90s, when I was growing up in the 90s, I don't want to say never, but you almost never saw this stuff at the NFL level at all. You didn't usually see it on the college level unless it was some directional school that just wanted to do something a little different because of a major talent disadvantage. And then there weren't that many high schools that were doing this stuff. It almost felt like, but I'll tell you who was doing a lot of this stuff. It was kids on PlayStations and Nintendos thinking, how can I get my fast guy at tailback or at running back or at quarterback and just get them the ball somehow, like you said, out in space. Yeah. And it almost feels like that generation grew up and worked their way through high school, through college, and even some filtered into the NFL. Again, this isn't necessarily an NFL offense, but you do see it at times. It almost feels like that generation grew up. It wasn't that the older generation adopted this stuff so much.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I know triple option, like true flex bone triple option stuff is, things of the past, you could say, to the flex. If any flex bone coach listens to this, I'm sorry, but it's older. And but this is like the new way to do it, and this right. But you see it has success. It's just it's an old concept and that was translated into a modern way of doing it, and it works great. But yeah, I mean, you see a lot of younger guys, all the coaches in their 20s that I'm keeping in touch with right now. We all talk about spread option, you could call it, or pistol. You can run a lot of option from the gun, and kids enjoy, after coaching high school for 2 years and running both the flex bone and the spread, like kids enjoy being from the gun. Like ground and pound is fun for us coaches, but kids, they like throwing the ball. They like getting different players the ball. I mean, this is the football they see on TV. They see play action, air raid attack, and this is, I think this is the closest we're ever going to get to. I'm going to get burned if this gets posted on Twitter, but this is the closest we're going to get to like triple option football in the future. I don't really think we're going to see much more flex bone in college, and of course never the NFL. And then even in high school, like teams are walking away from it. I will say though, the true flex bone in the high school and college level, I think it would be smart to implement it because not many teams see it. Almost no teams see it. In college, I don't think no Power 5 school, or group of 5 school even runs it. I like Georgia Tech used to, and they used to be ranked, and now they switched to the air raid or spread or whatever you want to call it, and they're not ranked and they're losing 6, 7, 8 games a year. So anyway,
you're totally right. I watched the Baltimore Ravens even, and they run a little bit of option early last season against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs had no answers for that, none, because they don't see it ever. And the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson sitting there and as tough as nails, offensive line and running backs and tight ends, they do a halfway decent job of running that option, especially against the defense that's never seen it before. I kind of feel like you and I are the defense. We don't know where the negative comments are going to come from, but they're going to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Hey,
You're right.
Hey, just talk to me.
So,
Hey, if you got a problem, go ahead and slide into my DMs. I've seen a lot of Twitter drama. We don't need that.
right.
Go ahead and call me just in person. You don't need to blow me up in front of everybody.
Right. Well, before somebody blows us up over the flex bone, wishbone, all that stuff, triple option. Yeah, we understand that they used to do that 100 years ago and so forth. But this is a new way to run this stuff that we've seen the last decade or so, where you introduce run pass options, where you mix it in with lots of other things that the offense can do. And it's building on what guys used to do 50 and 60 and 70 years ago. But with the athletes today and the rules today and the innovation today and the willingness to do it today, it's kind of like triple option or flex bone or wishbone on steroids, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. It really is.
One final question, and then we'll wrap up. I've noticed on a lot of the plays that were in your book, which we'll mention in a second, and even some of these plays here tonight, how vital it is that wide receivers block, that running backs block. I can remember, and again, this is the second thing that's going to date me here. I remember very well in the 80s and 90s, teams talking about how difficult it was to get wide receivers to block, and how difficult it was in some cases even to get running backs to block. It was a real issue.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be as much of an issue anymore as far as willingness, but still, in terms of actually technique and performing it, one wide receiver doesn't even touch the guy on a play. Running back or tight end misses his block. These plays are toast, right? The blocking out there is vital, right?
Absolutely. No, that's one aspect that's overlooked. And no fans watching a wide receiver block, but wide receivers can turn a 5-yard gain into a touchdown. I mean, usually the guys who are making the tackle, once the ball on like triple option, once the ball gets to the perimeter, usually see either the safety or the corner make the tackle. It's not a defensive lineman or a linebacker flying all the way outside. If wide receivers block well or can run a guy off, like that's the difference between getting tackled 5 yards downfield and then the pitch man bouncing it outside with that wide receiver block, sealing off the defender from the outside. And that's how you see big plays happen. So receivers have a huge role in the run game. And I think that's, one thing that's being more popular, or more talked about at least, is like no block, no rock. That's what coaches say. If you don't block, like, why are we going to throw it to you? Make sure you take care of your teammates. And there's a cliche saying. I try to stay away from coaching cliches. Like, how hard you play when you don't have the ball shows how much you care about your teammates. So I think there's some truth to that, and I think it's pretty spot on, actually.
There is. I saw that in play after play. I was like, my gosh, if those two wide receivers don't block, this play will never work. And if that tight end on a different play doesn't pick up the block, this play is toast. And that's something that 25 years ago was very much not the case, especially with the wide receivers, and even more so some of the star wide receivers.
Absolutely.
I could do this all night. We don't have the time, and I don't think anybody's going to listen to us all night, but I have enjoyed it, Jake.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate, you letting me walk through some film and asking great questions. So it's always fun to talk some football.
I promise we will do it again if you're willing. If you're not, I'm just going to keep, messaging you until you get willing.
Hey, I'll be on here again anytime you need. I'm always happy to talk to you.
All right, we'll do it again. This is your book. This is called Plays from the Pistol by Jake Franklin. I think there's 120 pages, 130 pages in here of real plays that actually happen on a college football field from real teams. And you name the teams: Kansas State, Minnesota Cronston, Oklahoma State. There's a lot of Coastal Carolina in here. And tell the audience about this book, where they can find it, what all may be in it.
Absolutely. So you can find this book on Amazon. If you just go to Amazon and type in Plays from the Pistol, it'll be right there. It's $19.99. So again, I try to keep the price low. And it's a book full of pistol plays. You see the pistol more and more and more throughout college football and even the NFL. And it's becoming more of a thing. And it's it's a great formation or a great backfield really that can set your quarterback up for any sort of triple option, and it gets your running back running downhill, and you also don't show a tendency whenever you have a running back to one side or the other. The defense can guess he's probably going to come across the quarterback, run that direction. From the pistol, they can't key in on that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of benefits to the pistol, including great play action, because the quarterback will turn his back to give the ball to the quarterback. And whenever the defense sees the quarterback turn his back, they're running downhill, sold out to the run. So there's a lot of really good benefits to the pistol. And this book basically just tries to give a lot of creative ideas of different plays you can run from the pistol. And I wrote this so if you're an offensive coordinator or an aspiring offensive coordinator, you can take this book, open it up, and find some good ideas that you can add to your offense this next upcoming season.
And Jake, I've told you this before, so this isn't new to you, but I'll tell the audience. The one thing I like best about this book, not just your writing style, which is very clear, but on every single play, you list in detail what the quarterback is reading, how he makes his decision, specifically which player or two players he's looking at to make his decision as he's going through some of these RPOs and the pistol plays and all the other stuff. I really like that. I suggest getting it, even if you're not a coach and you just like to learn about this stuff. This is a very well written book, and we'll look for more from Jake Franklin.
Well, I appreciate that a ton. Thank you so much.
Jake, I've enjoyed it, man. And thank you so much for watching us today. This is Benjamin Parker with Sports and Money. We'll see you next time. Bye.